Hello, and welcome to Cooking with Bill. I'm not a professional chef by any stretch of the word, and I've never worked in any kind of kitchen. I'm just a home cook who makes all kinds of mistakes. Hopefully, watching my videos helps you get into the kitchen and making your own delicious creations. Today, I'll be demonstrating how to prepare a common Indian flatbread known as naan. Naan is excellent plain with a slightly tangy, smoky flavor and a soft inside. And it's often used to pick up parts of your meal or to soak up delicious sauces. However, in this video I will take it one step further and mix up a garlic and herb compound butter that really takes this naan to the next level. Without further ado, it's time to get cooking with Bill. The ingredients you'll need are as follows: all-purpose flour, white sugar, some warm water, olive oil or your oil of choice, some kosher salt, an egg, some yogurt, a packet of instant dry yeast, and if you want to make the compound butter, some garlic, butter, and a couple other seasonings that I didn't put up here. First off, you need to bloom your yeast. Put one packet of instant dry yeast into a container with about a cup of warm water, then add a teaspoon of sugar. The yeast is alive and kept dormant with a dried outer coating, so the warm water helps melt that coating while the sugar gives something for the yeast to eat. You'll know your yeast is working once the mixture is nice and frothy. This should take a minute or two. As you can see, the yeast is very much alive and making lots of bubbles with that sugar. For the next step, you need to add your oil of choice. I went with extra virgin olive oil because I like the taste, but that's probably far from traditional. Then add about a cup of yogurt and an egg. Go ahead and lightly whisk these ingredients together until they are relatively homogeneous. It doesn't need to be perfect. This will be the wet part of your naan dough, which you'll add to the dry ingredients in just a moment. Now, you may be asking yourself, hey, I didn't see any egg in there. Well, enjoy being gaslit, because the egg is right here, has been the whole time. I would never forget something like that. Moving on, we mix together our extensive list of dry ingredients: all-purpose flour and salt. Go ahead and give this a quick stir, even though this step is always felt unnecessary, since we're going to be mixing it together thoroughly with the wet ingredients in just a second. But then you're ready to pour in your wet ingredients and begin to mix. Keep stirring until the dough is fairly smooth. You'll notice I add the flour in about a half cup at a time. Doing this helps stop the mixture from clumping up and forming dry pockets of flour. Keep adding flour until the dough firms up and won't take any more. I make a couple of rookie mistakes when making this dough, and I'll highlight them when they happen. So what happens here is that I see the dough starting to firm up and pull away from the sides of the bowl, and it seems like the flour on the sides is not really incorporating, so I go ahead and assume it's ready to be worked. I was very wrong, and it was still far too sticky to work by hand, and I should have mixed in more flour. My second critical error was not flouring my work surface, so not only did the dough stick to my hands, it also stuck to the table. Now, you can look upon my failure and hopefully not make the same mistakes. Here, I've immediately realized what's wrong, and I try to remedy by flouring part of my table and rolling the dough over to that section. It obviously did not work, and I had to break out the bench scraper and lots of flour. You can see how sticky the dough is here by the streaks on the table, and while I eventually get this mixture to form a cohesive mass, I'd recommend to not try this method at home unless you really cherish the struggle. Here, I try to scrape the remaining dough off of my hands, but I realize this is all futile, and I go ahead and wash my hands, get my bench scraper, and work the hell out of this thing off camera. I pull this together, I promise. Luckily for you, with a little movie magic, here we are at the final product. I left the dough ball out on the table with a towel over it for about an hour to proof and double in size. Now that the dough is proofed, you need to flatten it out slightly and degas it. Once you've done this, go ahead and cut the circle of dough in 6 to 8 pieces, depending on how large you want each piece and ultimately how large your pan is. Roll out each ball until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. In this video, I rolled out all 8 balls, then heated up my pan, but based on my research while editing the video, it's actually better to roll out each ball as the previous one hits the pan. Apparently this requires less flour and causes the pieces of uncooked dough to not stick as much. Preheat your pan dry and on a high heat. Ideally, you should use cast iron here since it retains heat well and cooks evenly. All I had was a large non-stick, and it's important not to overheat non-stick pans as it can cause the coating to break down. Once your pan is ripping hot, place down your naan and let it cook on one side until you start to see large bubbles forming on the top. I have this video sped up slightly, but these do cook fast. When the formation of the bubbles stops, flip your naan over and let the other side cook briefly. When you flip it back, with any luck, it should be nice and browned. Once you've cooked all of your naan, stack them on a plate and cover them with a towel so that they'll stay warm and tender while you're preparing your compound butter. The ingredients I added here that I didn't list earlier are, in no particular order, garlic powder, onion powder, marjoram, and a blend of other dried herbs. No measurements on this one. As I said once before, and I'll say it again, measurements are for cowards and pastry chefs. Hey, thanks a lot for watching this episode of Cooking with Bill. It has been a big leap in time spent and general difficulty getting this little show into video form and just presentable enough that it's not horrendous to look at or listen to. This is my first time ever trying out video or photo editing in any real capacity, and I'm learning a lot, but there's definitely still lots of progress to be made. Hopefully this can be my first video of many, but we'll have to see how things play out. If you've made it this far, I'm happy to hear any compliments or critiques about where I could do better, and I look forward to hearing from you in the next one.